Get ready for the radio show that tells you what Wall Street doesn't want you to know.
Oh, I'm a money magnet. Money, money, money's coming to me. Money sets me free. I'm a money magnet. Money, 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 money's coming to me.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Broadcasting live from the Republican National Convention in Tampa, Florida, here's Phil Grande and the Phil's Gang Radio Show.
You know, Mitt Romney is going to raise more money than Barack Obama. That should guarantee his victory. I think people should start to practice the words President Romney.
And that's Michael Moore. I'm Phil Grande, philsgang.com, coast to coast around the country off the Wall Street Radio Network. And my special guest today is Dennis Prager. Thank you, Dennis.
Great to be with you, Phil. Thank you.
What do you think of that you just heard? Michael Moore.
Well, I'm very happy to know how pessimistic the hero of the left is. When I was at the Democratic National Convention 8 years ago, as well as 4 years ago, but 8 years ago, he was the hero. It was not John Kerry the hero. He was the hero. Wherever he walked, you knew where Michael Moore was because you knew he was wherever there was a large number of delegates surrounding somebody and press. He was the hero. If the hero of the left predicts a Romney victory, that's a good sign. People who are pessimistic don't work as hard for their candidate, but it is not because of more money. He's a leftist, so he sees everything in terms of economics. That, crime is caused by poverty. You win an election because of money. If money determined everything, the Angels would be in first place. I come from L.A. It's not working out quite that way.
What effect do you think missing the first night the convention had on Romney, if any?
I don't think it's had any, but I was extremely opposed to the cancellation.
Right.
I opposed it in advance, not just afterwards when nothing happened here in Tampa. If a hurricane were to hit, and the worst thing for people to do is watch the weather channels when there are storms. It's boring. Not the weather channels, I mean all the networks, including Fox. The amount of time they have spent on this is, to me, it's the post-Katrina foolishness. That's all it is. Lest anybody be considered callous toward the suffering of his fellow American. More people die in Chicago being shot each weekend, than any of these storms kill. And yet that there's no coverage over that. It's foolish in the extreme. If there was going to be a hurricane, then they should have canceled them when the hurricane came. But other than that, I don't think it's had any impact. And
talking about storms, is there going to be a storm tonight if Romney doesn't get across an economic plan that's not generic? I mean, how important is tonight to reintroduce himself to the American people, but to get a definite plan, not something generic, a real plan across today?
I think the most important is that he convinced the people who are in doubt that he is presidential caliber. I don't think he has to be funny. I don't think he has to be Mr. I feel your pain. Let the Democrats own I feel your pain. We can't compete with them on that. They won, okay? They win on emotion. We have to win on intellect and resolve and character. And if he comes across in those ways, that's all we need, and that's all he has to do. This is our problem, my fellow Americans, and I believe that we have solutions, and they have none. They are the problem.
I want you to comment on, I had an interview with Donald Trump, and here's what he had to say about the campaign. I'd love to have your comment on what he said.
Remember that one of the most vicious campaigns ever waged, in fact, according to a lot of the experts, the most vicious modern-day campaign, where they call Bill Clinton.
Sometimes the expression is you have to fight fire with fire, and if he doesn't fight fire with fire, it's going to be not so easy.
Who was the last commenter?
That was Donald Trump.
Both of them were Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So he, I don't know what that means to fight fire with fire. Do you call them as many names as they call us? It's impossible. They have the vocabulary and all bad names. There isn't a bad name we're not called. So what do you say? You know, we are, as I say on my show all the time, sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, and bigoted. So what's left? What are you going to call them? They're demagogues, and that's fine. All you have to do is show what Paul Ryan said last night. Would you like 4 more years of the policies of the last 4 years? That's it. If you do, vote there. That's it. It has entered the realm of no-brainer. Mm-hmm. We are becoming like Greece. Is they claim the moral high ground? Is it moral to pass on to your children and grandchildren your debt? That's considered compassionate? That's what I would say. I mean, that's what sickens me, that they have this sort of monopoly on these adjectives that they don't deserve. How moral is that? We spend our way like drunken sailors, and you, our children and grandchildren, will pay the debt, but we're the party of compassion. That's a trick.
And his point is that he doesn't feel that Romney's being critical enough.
Phil, I think the one mistake the Republicans are making is they're not being critical enough of Obama and the job that Obama is doing. They're afraid to be critical of Obama, and they don't want to be criticized or whatever it may be, and they're just afraid to be critical of him. And I personally, if I were him, I'd be extremely critical of Obama.
Are they afraid?
Every time President Obama is criticized by anybody on the right, or any Republican, it is immediately labeled racist. They have created a sort of shield for the president because of that charge. It's a dastardly lie, and the president doesn't disavow it, and that's an unfortunate fact. The truth is, the state of the economy is so already reflective on the president. You don't have to spend every day doing it. But I would not hesitate to criticize the president. You just do it in terms that are respectful of the office, if not of the job that the man has done.
And my special guest is Dennis Prager. And tonight is going to be an important night. We all know that. And Craig Romney, he's going to be the only son talking tonight, I understand. And they said he's going to be talking in Spanish. And how important is it to get the same point across to his mother?
How important is it for him to get the same point across?
She got across. She got a wonderful point across.
You mean about his being human?
Yeah, about being human.
Look,
how much weight does he cover?
It helps. Okay, it does help. People want to have a certain emotive bond with a president or a presidential candidate. I agree with that. But he's not going to get elected or not elected on that. He's going to get elected because people think he's going to get us out of trouble. And he has to come across as serious, as presidential, in my opinion, more than the guy you want to have a beer with. I personally don't want to have a beer with my president. Okay? It has never been a goal of mine in life. All I want my president to do, to the best of his ability, is lead the nation where necessary and leave me alone the rest of the time. I'm a conservative, so that's what I believe. The less the role the president plays in my life, the better. I don't want a beer with him, and I don't want him to manage my life. I want him to protect my country, and I want him to let our economy be robust with as few rules as possible to stymie it. And the rest of the day, he can golf.
And if he called you, if Romney called you 1 minute before he went up to the stage and said, Dennis, give me one bit of advice, the one thing I should do.
He should also talk about the forest, not just the trees. The trees is policy, forest is the big picture. He has to, I've said this for 2 years now, he has to talk about the big picture. That the United States basic value system, what I call the American Trinity, liberty, in God we trust, e pluribus unum, is under attack. They prefer equality to liberty. They prefer a godless society to a God-based society. And they prefer multiculturalism to e pluribus unum. We stand for the original 3 primary uniquely American values. They are opposed to them. You have a choice this November. It has never been clearer in 100 years.
And this is not your first convention, so how much of a bump should we expect out of this convention for Romney?
I think you should expect a bump. They are having, the other side is having their convention in a week, so then presumably they get their bump. I think that it is Mitt Romney's and the Republicans to lose. In other words, without a foul-up like Todd Akin, who has decided that he is more important than the country. Without putting that aside, Republicans should win all over the country, because the Democrats have nothing to defend except that we are not sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, and bigoted. That's their whole platform.
Last question. I know you got to go. Ann Romney's speech. What'd you think?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. She's a regal woman. And to the extent that it matters, I would be honored to have her as my first lady. She embodies. They both embody dignity. I am a big dignity fan. I don't need people to emote in front of me. I emote publicly as it happens, but I like a certain stoicism. A leader has to be that way, and I love the dignity that they two have. And her point, you think we had a fairy tale marriage? Fairy tale marriages exist in fairy tales, and I love that. I love that.
Well, I thank you so much. I really do, for coming aboard with us. And again,
it's an honor to be with you, really. You do a great show yourself, and
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's
Okay.
an honor. There you have it, Dennis Prager.